we are learning that U.S. military is keeping up the forces ready as it continues the blockade against Iran. Sailors on USS Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier are working on, in fact, the fighter jets there to keep them ready for action. The U.S. Central Command has taken to social media to state that as of today, 53 commercial ships have been turned back, 2 were stopped, 2 were boarded, and the U.S. military has also allowed more than 30 ships carrying humanitarian aid to pass through the blockade as well. So that naval blockade in the Strait of Hormuz, stopping the ships to pass to and from the Iranian ports, that remains in a focus. But also quite important is that U.S. military has stated that they are keeping the forces ready as it continues with the naval blockade against Iran. Bringing back Srinjoy on this. Srinjoy, can you tell us what is the latest situation around the U.S. blockade against Iran and how is Iran responding to the U.S. military's action?
This is perhaps the most effective weapon the Americans have against Iran. Because if you have that naval blockade in place, Iran cannot export oil to different countries. Now, 90% of Iranian exports of oil at one time were going to China. China, luckily for it, has huge reserves of petroleum, which is why it can manage as well it has in recent months. But it's affecting Iranian exports. And without Iranian exports of oil, Iran as a country faces difficulties. It cannot import a lot of things too. But most importantly, the export of oil is stopped or has almost stopped. Now, that is something that is hurting Iran. Now, Iran also can do a lot of other things. Iran can stop traffic in the Strait of Hormuz. It's not very difficult to do that. All you need is really someone with a shoulder-fired missile, at least. And there are these tankers going through, there are these merchantmen going through, and it's not very difficult to fire a weapon at ships, one of these tankers. So this is something Iran can do and has, as you know, and some Indian sailors have lost their lives as a result.
Absolutely. So on one side, Iran has completely shut down the Strait of Hormuz. On the other, the United States continues with the naval blockade. Stay on with us, Srinjoy. I'll come back to you once again. We have another breaking update coming in. Iran has laid down a series of conditions for reopening the Strait of Hormuz, complicating the efforts to restore normal traffic through this crucial waterway. In fact, we're learning that the Secretary of Iran's Supreme National Security Council has said that the Strait of Hormuz would remain closed until the United States lift the naval blockade and the sanctions on their country, withdraw the military forces from the region, pays war damages, and also releases frozen Iranian assets and ends attack on the regional allies as well. The White House has not yet responded to the demands, but these are the series of demands that have been in fact, put up by Iran, the conditions that they have put up for reopening the Strait of Hormuz. To get you more perspective on this, let me once again go back to Srinjoy. Srinjoy, could you take us through the series of conditions that Iran has put up as far as reopening of the Strait of Hormuz is concerned?
Even on the 27th of February, the day before the war began, the Strait of Hormuz was open, and any ship would go in and out through the Strait of Hormuz. But after the war began, somewhat after the war began, the Iranians decided to weaponize the Strait of Hormuz. And once you weaponize the Strait of Hormuz, it means that the Strait of Hormuz is closed to ships that Iran does not feel happy about. Now, this has led to serious problems because this is something Iran knows. 20% of the world's petroleum, 20% of, or 1/5 of the world's petroleum goes through the Strait of Hormuz. When you close the Strait of Hormuz, you affect crude oil exports from, let's say, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, largely the UAE, dollars per gallon, which is something which is hurting America, and the people of America are unhappy about it. Even though the Americans themselves produce enormous amounts of petroleum. Countries like China, India, Japan, South Korea are large countries, are badly affected by this. You have seen prices of petroleum go up. Now, Iran knows that this is going to hurt the world. And as the blockade continues, the naval blockade by the Americans continue, Iran is making it clear that the Strait of Hormuz will be closed. Now, there are efforts to bring this problem to a kind of end. People are trying, the Qataris are trying, others are trying to ensure that there is peace in the area. But so far at least, this problem persists. And as long as this persists, it will affect the world.
Absolutely. And now Iran has set out the terms for reopening the Strait of Hormuz.